Todd Howard recently went on the Kinda Funny Xcast to answer some questions and clarify some details about Starfield. And unfortunately, I have some bad news, as Todd Howard has confirmed there will be no fishing in Starfield.
Is there some kind of rod that I can put into a lake and pull out an alien fish and then sell it or cook it or something?
That is one thing we do not have.
Okay, but really, he did confirm that, but what I really wanted to discuss was all the new information and the clarified information that we learned about from that interview. So, let's get into it. Based on previous information, we knew that Starfield would have around 1,000 planets in the game. That would be housed within 100 different star systems. Well, Todd Howard has confirmed how many of those planets will actually contain life in Starfield, with him saying that about 10% of the planets in Starfield will have life, which mimics the Goldilocks zone or habitable zones for planets, which are planets within that range of distance with the right temperatures for water to remain liquid and sustain life. So these planets are not too hot, they're not too cold, and they are just right for liquid water. This would mean that around 100 planets out of the 1,000 planets that are in Starfield would contain life, that being plants and different wildlife. The remaining planets will be heavily resource-based and would be places that you'd want to go and collect various resources. These could be some great locations for outposts depending on the resources that they have. And even though the planet can't sustain life, Todd Howard has even said that these planets will still generate things for you to find and discover, meaning they won't be completely barren and devoid of anything interesting to see. However, he did say that they wanted to balance this as to not make it feel too gamey by including too many abandoned locations or bases on these planets. And Bethesda wants you to feel like you're the first person to ever explore some of these planets. So having these abandoned locations on every single planet would kind of make that experience redundant. Throughout Starfield's development, Bethesda have talked about balancing realism and fun. So it sounds like Starfield is taking the approach that they want to make their planetary places and locations very realistic, depending on the distance from the sun. And Todd continued by clarifying that planets can actually have multiple biomes. When designing these planets and placing biomes, Bethesda is looking at things like temperature and radiation when deciding where these biomes will be placed. And Todd described that you can actually get certain ailments if you're not well prepared or protected to go on that planet. From the deep dive, we actually saw some of those ailments, which included things like joint pain, soreness, and a cough. And as we've seen in the deep dive, your gear will have different protections or weaknesses to different environments and atmospheres, such as thermal, corrosive, radiation, and airborne. So when visiting different planets, you'll need to try and prepare yourself for the different planets that you visit, based on their atmosphere and that environment. Now, there will be some planets with a singular type of biome, while others can have many different types, like we've said. And the plants and wildlife that'll be there will be different in these different biomes. He also discussed that once you survey these different planets and resources and you fully survey the planet, you can actually sell that data for credits, as it's very valuable in-game, adding another layer to Starfield's exciting economy system. Todd further clarified some information regarding Starfield's procedural generation and the handcrafted locations that they're including in the game. Bethesda have crafted numerous individual locations, some of which are placed very specifically, with most of the specifically placed ones being the main cities that we'll visit and different quest locations.
Obviously, it's procedural. Okay, so there's no way we're going to go and handcraft an entire planet. What we do is we handcraft individual locations, and some of those are placed specifically, obviously the main cities and other quest locations, and then we have a suite of them that are generated or placed when you land, depending on that planet.
Regarding some of the creatures in-game, Todd has also mentioned that the creatures on different planets can be a big concern at times. And as we've seen, some of those are actually very dangerous. He actually described a situation where they've actually had problems where the game's predator creatures have gone and killed a bunch of the prey creatures on a planet.
The creatures there, some of them can be aggressive, where it can get dangerous if you're exploring the planet. And you can watch the creatures. We've actually had a problem at times with the predator creatures going and killing all of the more peaceful creatures you're coming across.
No.
Why are they all dead? And then you realize there's something dangerous in the area. So I would say this, that we do everything that you mentioned, and we really try to mix it up and spend a lot of time balancing that. So it is fun minute to minute, but you also know what you're getting into.
He also mentioned that there is a particularly bad one that we will see and face in game, but he didn't really want to provide any details. I suspect it's likely the creature that we've seen just quick snippets of in the different gameplay trailers that we've gotten, but we'll just have to wait and find out some more. One thing that Todd confirmed that I know will definitely be a disappointment to some is that there are no rovers or other land vehicles in Starfield. And he said that the jetpack or the boost pack will allow you to get around quickly and can be upgraded through your skills like we've seen. Todd described the boost pack as basically having a vehicle on your back. And he said that using it in low gravity is a great experience, where I bet there'll be planets where it's basically like we're flying around the planet in low gravity. However, this will likely be an opportunity for modders to come in and just add that content if you play on PC, which is something that Todd Howard has said that Bethesda are very open to and cannot wait to see what modders include in the game.
Yeah, I think Starfield is going to be kind of a modder's paradise. It's part of our DNA here. We've been doing it for over 20 years. And our community around that, because look, we've usually been classically single player. That has been our community. And people are still modding our games and playing them. So we're doing a lot of it. And I think one of the things that I'll call out is it's important for us not just to enable that, but to participate, right? To make it easy for them, to make this where they can make it not just a hobby, but a career. We've had a lot of great success there. So looking forward to what everyone's going to do with Starfield, just like cannot imagine.
Todd also discussed the Constellation crew members a little bit more and said that they are awesome and deep companions. Your choices will impact the decisions that your companions make. Some of these decisions may make them very angry, and the relationship can change based on that. You can also instruct your companions on where to go, and if they make you mad, then you can actually just leave them behind at an outpost, never to be seen again, if that's what you want to choose. Just like you can make your companions angry, you can also make them like you a lot more. And you can actually have romance options with the 4 main Constellation crew members. We know from the deep dive that Sam Coe and leader Sarah Morgan can be part of this, but I suspect the other 2 will likely be Mateo and Noel the scientist. However, Todd did not confirm that those were the other 2. The 4 main members of Constellation will have romance options and a full quest line for their character. Now, one thing I noticed in the interview was that Todd didn't confirm whether there would be romance options outside of those 4 characters, but hopefully there will be to add some more fun to the game. Todd also described that Starfield will be working to include some more accessibility options for the game, including a big font mode. And he mentioned that the big font will be helpful for Starfield, especially since it's an RPG with a lot of dialogue and text to read. And we know that the game's persuasion system will play a big part, so it's very important that all players will be able to utilize that system. He also quickly mentioned that Starfield will have a radio station that you can tune into at certain locations and listen into. I don't know if he meant it would be like space music or maybe like cool space interviews or some kind of radio show like that. I'm not sure, but I'm excited to listen in and see what it's all about. From the deep dive, we knew that ships in Starfield could be registered or unregistered, and now we have some more clarification on that. Todd said that even stolen, unregistered ships can be customized, but they have to first be registered. So if you acquire a ship in a less than legal way, then you're going to have to spend some credits to get your ship registered so you can then customize it. However, even if you stole it and you can't customize it just yet, you'll still be able to fly it around and store it and things like that. Todd has said that this is to try and keep the game's economy from being broken by, people just stealing ships and then going and selling them right away or customizing them right away. And on the subject of shipbuilding, Todd Howard further said that the more in-depth shipbuilder mode is more of a late game mode that you'll use later on into Starfield, and not necessarily during the early part of the game.
I will say that that's a very deep system and one that we expect for late game. It's not like you start the game and then you're going to get right into shipbuilding. It costs a lot of credits. It is, in a good way, a very complicated system, and one that it was more of a longer term thing in the game. You can easily upgrade your ship, like just go in and say, I want to improve these weapons. I want to improve the grav drive or the shields. That's very, very easy to do. But where you go in that mode and you break it apart and you're building, that is a whole mode onto itself that is more of a long-term play kind of thing.
He also mentioned and talked about the ranking system of skills just a little bit more and clarified a little bit more about how that works. So in Starfield, instead of having a classic skill tree where you go through the tree and have certain skills locked before getting others unlocked, Starfield has a ranking system which allows you to specialize in an area such as tech or social skills. And you can go through and choose and unlock and level up the skills that you find the most important for your playstyle. Now, we saw some examples of this in the deep dive with the security and intimidation skills. As you rank these skills from the basic level up to level 4, their highest level, the benefits that you will get from the skills begin to multiply.
And then they're tiered. So as opposed to being a strict kind of tree you have to go down, you can say, I want to focus in technology, and then the different tiers of skills will open up, and it gives you flexibility within that. There's 5 of them. You saw that in the direct. And we are finding here, what you always want is when people are talking about the game, that they're saying, did you know you can do this? Or they're comparing characters, and those character builds and those stories feel very, very unique for each person in that conversation.
For example, with the Intimidation skill, rank 1 allows you to force an NPC at or below your level to flee for a limited time. But once you get to rank 3, you can force NPCs up to 20 levels higher than you to flee as well. Then, as you rank up to level 4, the time increases from a short amount of time to a substantial amount of time. We saw some other examples of some rank 4 skills in the deep dive of Neurostrikes and Xenosociology. Now, level 4 skills are characterized by their bold yellow outline, and the logo of that skill actually overlaps the skill patch. Neurostrikes was one that provided you with some insane punching power, while Xenosociology allowed you to mind control alien creatures, which I thought was pretty sweet. While we knew this skill system was present in Starfield, it was nice to get some more clarification on how it works and how the ranking system works as well. Be sure and let me know which part of Starfield you're most excited to experience. To learn more about the space and ground combat of Starfield, be sure and click on the video on your screen as I talked all about that, as well as the skills that went along with the combat as well. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.